We'll hear from area EMS workers about the recent uptick in COVID transfers.
The Biden administration announces a new push to get more people vaccinated. I'm Mallory Rivera in Washington with more on those efforts, as some people warn against mandates.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Jordan Albee. The Missouri State Highway Patrol says a Texas woman died on Elk River north of Knoll, Missouri. The Highway Patrol says Maria Reyes was in a boat that hit a tree, then capsized. Reyes was trapped under the boat and drowned. Missouri Highway Patrol says an Commerce, Oklahoma man died in the same general area of Elk River when he went into deep water. Authorities say Joel Pascual was unable to swim back. He died at the scene. The Humane Society of Missouri says its Animal Cruelty Task Force has rescued 21 dogs in McDonald County living in a, quote, appalling situation. Missouri Department of Agriculture used a court order to inspect the property of a licensed breeder. The society claims some dogs were in extremely poor health and that there was evidence others had recently died. They say most of the dogs had no access to water. They had to amputate the leg of one. On a scale of 1 to 10 for body condition, only one dog scored higher than a 2. Humane Society of Missouri President Kathy Warnick says, quote, these dogs have been living in horrific conditions. The breeder's neglect is inhumane and utterly reprehensible. Nick Kelly joining us now. A little bit of relief once that sun goes down, Nick.
Yeah, and we really needed it too, Jordan, after yet another hot and humid day across the area. Maybe just a hair cooler in terms of the highs today, but still right up there at 95 after we dropped back to 74 this morning. The wide view across the entire region doesn't really show a lot. We are seeing thunderstorms across northern Missouri, but that's along the front that won't have an impact on our weather until we get toward the weekend. In the meantime, these excessive heat warnings, heat advisories continue on until this time tomorrow night. In the short term, though, everybody is sitting in the low to mid 80s. Quick look at what it feels like. The humidity's up there too. Feels like the mid 90s in some spots. Jordan, relief is on the way, though. We'll break down when it'll get here in just a bit.
Nick, thanks as always. Ambulance services in some areas are getting hit with a high number of coronavirus calls. Last fall, EMS crews saw a lot of calls for COVID. Then as the vaccine was rolling out, the number dropped. But now that the Delta variant is spreading in the area, those calls are right back up. KOAM Zach Dodge has this story.
They're the people you see first on what could very well be the worst day of your life.
It's been kind of hectic.
And more people are seeing them because of COVID.
This is our second for the day, but they've both been out of counting calls.
Mercy paramedic Rachel Cummings and her crew see more COVID calls than anything else right now. So putting on 2 masks, gowns, face shields,
and then obviously gloves over the gowns, so no airflow anywhere,
is a common practice, even in the summer heat.
Everything is just so warm and sweaty.
They've already had 2 COVID transports, and if their day is anything like they've been seeing, they're not done yet. That spreads all the way from here to Springfield.
They're working extra shifts. Many times their shifts are extended, and so it is definitely a stressful time.
Mercy EMS Director Bob Patterson is based in Springfield and says the numbers are so high, they had to request support from the state for help doing long-distance transports, something they've had to do more and more as hospitals fill up.
They run about 90. They've handled about 90 long-distance transports for us in the past 5 days.
In Crawford County, Kansas, the number of COVID calls haven't exploded to the same degree, but long-distance transports are also becoming more frequent.
The round trip on a Kansas City run is about 6 hours. That's 6 hours out of county.
Dr. Timothy Stebbins, director of Crawford County EMS, says that's exacerbating a pre-existing issue. A lack of staff.
So all of these communities are suffering with the same problem. You know, you have a set number of ambulances that you can run in a day. When you're taking an ambulance out of district for hours, it creates a challenge.
The short-term solution to all the problems? Vaccination.
If we didn't have the COVID pandemic, this is much less of an issue.
Everybody has their own reason to not get vaccinated, but a sore arm for 2 days is much better than burying your wife. It's not worth that.
Zach Dodge, KOAM News.
Dr. Stebbins says Crawford County EMS usually sees between 4,200 and 4,600 colds a year. He says this year they're on track to hit the high end of that range. Successful Dreams, an organization over in Parsons, Kansas that provides support services for people with intellectual disabilities, brought in a health expert to talk about the pros and cons of getting the COVID-19 vaccine. The expert, Debbie Thuston, a nurse from Neosho Memorial Hospital. Among the cons she talked about today, the risk of side effects, which she says are low and outweighed by the benefits. Those benefits include protection from the virus and its worst outcomes.
Both our former president and our current president, both were vaccinated in January of last year. They both were bipartisan and got their vaccinations to show this is safe, this is effective.
Thuston also highlighted the importance of wearing a mask amid increasing cases of the virus's Delta variant. Carl Junction School District hosted a back-to-school vaccination clinic today. In addition to the mandatory vaccines for students, they also offered the COVID-19 vaccine. KOAM's Chris Warner has more.
Thursday's vaccine clinic provided the required vaccinations for 8th and 12th graders getting ready to head back to school in a few weeks, but it also added a voluntary option.
The COVID vaccine is not required for school attendance, but we thought it would be a good opportunity for parents who wanted their students to be vaccinated to receive that as well.
Ginger Eubank's daughter is 17 and entering her senior year. For them, a COVID vaccine was necessary.
Our family had COVID in the fall, and my husband and my son were very affected by it. My mother-in-law has some health issues, and my daughter wanted to make sure that she was available to be around her grandmother.
Eubank says she wanted her daughter to do what was right for her.
They did a very good job in biology last year covering the vaccine, and she felt very informed, and after asking a few questions, she made the decision herself with our support that she go ahead and get the vaccine as well.
Allison Farage is a nurse at the Jasper County Health Department, one of two groups providing vaccinations Thursday. Farage says it's important for everyone to get the vaccine, especially students heading back to class.
So being, fully vaccinated, that's going to give them more options if they do have an exposure. As long as they are not having any symptoms, then they won't have to quarantine. And so that's one way that they can have more of a regular schedule.
Farage says it's also important to be fully educated on the vaccine, and there are resources available to help.
There is more and more information with this ongoing studies. Most of the children seem to do really well, and it has a very high efficiency against it. But they can always call and get questions answered from the direct staff, at the health department or their pediatrician.
In Carl Junction, Chris Warner, KOAM News.
According to the Jasper County Health Department, as of July 20th, about 15% of kids ages 12 to 17 have received at least one dose of the vaccine in the county, while around 9% are fully vaccinated. President Biden rolling out a new effort to push more Americans to get vaccinated, now saying federal workers must show proof of vaccination or follow regular testing amid masking rules. Fox's Madeline Rivera is in D.C. with the latest on the fight to quell the rise of COVID-19 cases as criticism grows over the CDC's guidelines.
Less than a month after President Biden shared his hope that the country would soon declare its independence from COVID-19, the White House is delivering a different message. The administration now requiring federal workers to show they're vaccinated or face strict protocols like testing and masking.
As more people get vaccinated, we are better protected as a nation to continue reopening safely and responsibly. We are not fully out of the woods yet.
The new policy is not a mandate. Those who don't get vaccinated aren't at risk of losing their jobs. But it showcases the president's tough battle against sluggish vaccination rates as the Delta variant spurs a spike in cases. Less than half of the country is fully vaccinated per the latest CDC data.
Anyone who's not vaccinated and who did not have COVID previously, the Delta variant is so contagious that you're going to get it.
Just this week, the CDC issued new recommendations saying vaccinated people should wear masks indoors in COVID hotspots. Now some are calling for the CDC to release the science behind the guidance.
These mask mandates, they need to explain. Just give us information. Americans are smart. We know what to do.
As some wait to see whether private companies follow the federal government's lead, some say municipalities should do what's best for them.
I don't necessarily believe that we need a one-size-fits-all policy for everyone in this country.
The president is also calling on state and local governments to offer $100 to those who get vaccinated to be paid for by COVID-19 relief funds. In Washington, Mala Rivera, Fox News.
KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14 takes us time now to honor another four-state hero. Charlotte Phelps served in the U.S. Army from 1944 to 1945, and we are proud to thank and salute Staff Sergeant Charlotte Phelps, native of Commerce, Oklahoma. She's tonight's four-state hero. Nick Kelly's next with a complete look at the forecast, and later the Pittsburgh Little League baseball team preparing to hit the road to Indy. We have the story, sports.
It was yet another day where it may have looked nice, but it felt hot and humid once again. But on the plus side, there is a plus side to a day like this. Kept things pretty quiet once again, even with passing cloud cover over indigo sky outside of Seneca, Missouri. We just wish it would have helped us out with a break from the heat and maybe with some isolated showers or storms, but since none of that materialized, it's very similar to yesterday. After we hit the mid to upper 90s yesterday, we dropped back into the mid 70s this morning and back to 95 at Joplin Regional this afternoon. I will say, though, there is radar activity picking up in northern parts of Missouri as a front parked across northern Missouri is trying to spark some evening thunderstorms, but they're going to probably stay right around Kansas City and definitely more towards St. Louis. None of these, I'm afraid, will make it here tonight. So that just means the excessive heat warnings and some lingering heat advisories, they will continue until we hit 9 o'clock tomorrow evening. And even then, I think there's a chance we'll have to put up with another hot and humid day for Saturday. Then the relief will start to come our way. Even though it looks quiet from 7th and Rangeline, it's still warm at 85 and it is still muggy with that dew point at 74. Both those numbers make it feel like it's 92 in Joplin and at the airport. Most of us lower in the middle 80s, between 80 and 85 degrees, but you factor in these dew points, they are still up there. Even at Fort Scott, trying to show a dew point of 81 degrees, that is beyond oppressive, and all the more reason why it still feels like many of us are in the lower to middle 90s at the 9 o'clock hour. Again, I want to keep an eye on these thunderstorms, even though I really don't think we'll have a chance of making it here, but it is hinting at our next front, parked to the north. It's just far enough to the north, though, that it really doesn't do anything in terms of rain chances for the next few days, not at least until we can get this upper level ridge to break down. Once it does, that's when the front will roll in, and that is when relief from the heat and the humidity will start to come our way. So I'm not too concerned about these thunderstorms to the north, and you can see how the future track backs up my thinking. We just stay dry overnight as overnight lows drop back to about, let's say, 75 degrees across the entire region. A light south breeze to start the morning out stays pretty light throughout the course of the day, but more out of the southwest at 5 to 10. Let's go 92 by noon and highs near 96 once again. And that's just the air temperature. You factor in the dew points, that'll be up there once again. It's going to feel like it's between 100 to 108, 109 degrees. And these numbers will repeat themselves for Saturday afternoon before we see that front finally roll on in. Again, it'll do so as that ridge starts to shift to the west. So we'll watch for thunderstorm chances with this passing front Saturday evening into Sunday morning. Then I think the rest of Sunday looks dry. But look at this setup, though. From Sunday afternoon through much next week, we're pretty much on the cooler side of the jet. That is a much better place to be, and you definitely see why on the 7-day forecast. 96 tomorrow, 95 on Friday. Both days, because of the heat and humidity, will be alert days. We'll watch the thunderstorm chances with the passing front, Jordan, but behind it, we'll have highs back in the mid-80s and lows back in the 60s. With the lower humidity, that's going to feel pretty nice.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to Sunday.
Absolutely.
Nick Kelly, thanks as always. Coming up, the end of a policy affecting millions of Americans.
The Biden administration's announcement that could force millions of Americans behind on their rent out. I'm David Spunt in Washington. Details coming up.
The Biden administration today announced the COVID eviction moratorium will expire Saturday, which could force millions of Americans behind on their rent out of their homes. This as the Delta variant becomes more prominent in the U.S., prompting new restrictions to be put into place. Fox News correspondent David Spunt has more now from Washington.
Millions of Americans who are behind on their rent may soon be looking for a new place to live. This follows the Biden administration's announcement the nationwide ban on evictions will expire on Saturday.
President Biden would have strongly supported a decision by the CDC to further extend this eviction moratorium to protect renters at this moment of heightened vulnerability. Unfortunately, as some of you might know, the Supreme Court has made clear that this option is no longer available.
The decision comes after the Supreme Court's 5-4 ruling that extended the COVID moratorium through the end of July. Justice Brett Kavanaugh, who was in the majority, said he'd block any additional extensions without, quote, clear and specific congressional authorization. President Biden strongly supports the program, providing relief for millions of renters during the pandemic. The president is calling on Congress to act on another extension, quote, without delay.
We will continue in all of government effort to keep Americans safe and housed through the swift dispersal of emergency rental assistance to states and cities.
The CDC put the federal moratorium in place last September to prevent tenants unable to pay rent from being evicted during the pandemic. At the beginning of July, 3.6 million were behind on rent, down from 6.4 million in March. However, landlords argue an extension is unnecessary as more people get vaccinated and get back to work. In Washington, David Spunt, Fox News.
Next, a new report addressing southern border control.
Vice President Kamala Harris releases the Biden administration's plan for dealing with the migrant surge here along the southwest border. I'm Rich Edson in La Jolla, Texas, and I'll have that story coming up.
More than 4 months after President Biden tasked his vice president with leading the administration's diplomatic efforts in Central America, today Kamala Harris released a new report. It outlines the administration's strategy to address the migrant surge along the border. Fox News correspondent Rich Edson has more on the plan from Texas.
This month, total CBP apprehensions for the calendar year are expected to top a million for the first time in 15 years, and we still have 5 months to go.
As migrant crossings along the U.S.-Mexico border continue to surge, Vice President Kamala Harris Thursday released the Biden administration's strategy for addressing the root causes of migration. The plan includes addressing economic insecurity and inequality, combating corruption, strengthening democratic governance, and promoting respect for human rights.
We value our partners in local communities whose work is critical to moving individuals safely out of custody.
Though Republicans say the administration is failing to address this surge in migrants.
What we see at the border today is an absolute crisis. It's the worst it has ever been. We have functionally open borders. This was caused by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
Though some congressional Democrats say the administration needs to do more to help these migrants, urging the U.S. to stop refusing entry under an authority called Title 42. The public health order allows border officials to expel certain migrants apprehended during the pandemic. Customs and Border Protection says since October, officials have expelled more than 750,000 migrants under their Title 42 authority. The White House says that authority will remain in place so long as health officials recommend it. In La Jolla, Texas, Rich Edson, Fox News.
Coming up, they're called mashup flavors. Going to preview 2 of them, and I think they're pretty awesome when we come back. I'm excited about this. Lay's is partnering with Doritos and Funyuns to release Lay's Doritos Cool Ranch and Lay's Wavy Funyuns Onion. Chip Company teased the partnerships on Twitter with pictures of its Lay's products. Cool Ranch flavor will feature, of course, classic Lay's chips with the zesty ranch seasoning. The Funyuns flavor will feature a wavy chip with hints of Funyun. Both are available at stores right now, but for a limited time, of course. I love Funyuns. I always have. My wife refuses to kiss me after I have Funyuns, but I still love them. 30 more minutes, news, weather, and sports. Coming away, the Missouri Attorney General's office completes an investigation into Joplin City Council, an issue centering around dinners before meetings. Also, protests over COVID-19 vaccine mandates continue, including one in Arizona that included nurses. Missouri Attorney General's office has completed its investigation into whether the Joplin City Council violated the state's sunshine law. The AG's office had received complaints last year that council members had gathered for dinners prior to formal meetings. The complaints claimed the meetings should either be public or not happen at all, since there was no way to know whether city business was being discussed. Now the AG's office tells KOAM News its investigation found no violations of the Sunshine Law. However, the AG did provide guidance to the city on how to better handle those dinners. The pandemic has become a hot button issue for a lot of people, and discussions about it with differing views can get heated. We spoke with John Blake of Show Me Hope, a crisis counseling program, about how to deal with frustration regarding differing views on vaccinations and masks. Blake says a good tip is try to avoid conversations about topics you know are going to cause problems.
If somebody's telling you something, it might be a piece of information or an opinion of theirs, you might just not want to speak to that and speak to what you do know. So the facts and education that you have learned that you know. Maybe avoid conversations like that, keep things more light and friendly.
Another tip is just do your best to control what you can control. Protesters in Arizona rallied against vaccine mandates, and among the opponents to getting the COVID-19 vaccine were a group of nurses. Fox's Danielle Miller has more.
This is not a political issue. Our livelihood should not be on the line. We should not be forced to choose to feed our families or participate in an experimental injection.
Hundreds of people protesting for medical freedom at the Arizona State Capitol this morning. Among those in the crowd, Chrissy Teacutt. Teacutt has been a nurse for 13 years with Dignity Health, who isn't requiring vaccinations for its employees. She says she's here to support her fellow healthcare workers.
We have been 18 months into this, taking care of COVID patients. We love our patients, we love what we do, but I don't take the flu vaccine. I've never been mandated to take the flu vaccine, so really standing for our rights as Americans.
Many people out here today upset with the recent decision made by Banner Health and Honor Health to require all employees to be vaccinated by November 1st. Banner releasing a statement saying in part vaccination is the single most effective way to end the pandemic and that the mandate is one more way to demonstrate our commitment to safety. Honor Health also releasing a statement saying our decision to require COVID-19 vaccination by November 1st is consistent with our mission to improve the health and well-being of those we serve. Teacutt says if and when that time comes to decide what to do, it won't be easy.
We love what we do. We need to make money. So it's tough to say, are you willing to quit? But really, we should be given the freedom to wear a mask. We're not saying we won't wear a mask at work. We will wear a mask for safety. But we should have the choice whether we are going to inject ourselves with something.
Well, another big win for Team USA as Suni Lee wins gold in the women's individual all-around final. Meanwhile, Japanese health officials issue a new warning as COVID-19 cases spike in Tokyo. Fox News senior foreign affairs correspondent Craig Pelcott has more.
Team USA adding another gold to its medal count on Thursday. Gymnast Suni Lee became the 5th straight American woman to claim the Olympic all-around title, edging out gymnasts from Brazil and the Russian Olympic Committee. Defending champion Simone Biles cheered from the stands after withdrawing from the competition to care for her mental health.
I was starting to put a little bit too much pressure on myself knowing that Simone was gone. I know what I'm capable of, and I knew that I had to hit the best routines of my life to get here.
Meanwhile, the Olympics continue to take place under a microscope as Tokyo sees a spike in COVID-19 infections. Local health officials reporting a record 3,800 new cases on Thursday, double the number from a week ago. 2 foreign Olympic athletes are hospitalized and more than 30 are self-isolating in hotels. Dozens of people protested in Tokyo Thursday, blaming the games for the recent surge.
By hosting this event, we are going to create the Tokyo Olympics variant, and those who tested positive will return to their countries.
Tokyo has been under a 4th state of emergency since July 12th, but despite stay-at-home requests, people are still walking around the city. Japanese officials now sounding the alarm.
This highly infectious Delta strain is progressing, and to reduce the number of new cases, we talked about how it is necessary to further reduce the movement of people.
Japan's prime minister says that he will decide on Friday whether to expand emergency measures. In London, Greg Palcon, Fox News.
A bit later, the NFL's COVID-19 vaccination policy.
The NFL isn't mandating the COVID vaccine for players, but it's a different case with coaches. I'm Matt Napolitano. I'll explain straight ahead.
It looked like another nice day, but it was the same setup that we've seen since the start of the past weekend. Hot and humid again, with highs pushing back into the mid-90s. The humidity making it feel like it was 107, 108 during the afternoon. But on the plus side, there was a plus side to this day, if you can believe it, we kept things quiet, not just over Indigo Sky, but all across the region for today. I have been keeping an eye, though, on some developing thunderstorms actually across northern parts of Missouri. And as much as we would like it for some of this to head our way to give us a little more of a break from the heat, the only remaining storms on the Missouri side are right around Cameron, Missouri, north of Kansas City, and some dying thunderstorms, or more prevalent storms rather, around Hannibal, Quincy on the Mississippi River and working down towards St. Louis on the north side of downtown, especially around Alton and Edwardsville on the Illinois side. Around here, though, no rain chances just yet. We'll hold on to the excessive heat warnings for most and heat advisories elsewhere until 9 o'clock tomorrow night. So we're definitely kicking off the weekend on another hot and humid note before relief finally comes our way. But at least it looks nice outside. Still warm and muggy though. 85 in Joplin. Feels like 92 with the dew point sitting at 74 degrees. Everyone's sitting between 80 and 85 degrees right now. And these dew points are still absurdly high, between 72 and 80 degrees at the extreme end of things. So no wonder it still feels like the lower 90s across a good portion of the region right now. That being said, at least we're keeping things quiet for tonight. Again, the thunderstorms across northern Missouri and toward the eastern side of the St. Louis area. Not headed our way, but hinting at our frontal boundary just to our north. Doesn't do anything to us for tomorrow, though. We still have high pressure on the surface, keeping a light southerly breeze in place. We won't see that front head our way until we see this upper level ridge break down. But once it does, we are going to welcome a break from the heat and the humidity, too, as we go into the first days of August next week, if you can believe how fast this year has been flying by. But the thunderstorms overnight, they'll be flying by away from us, staying toward northern and eastern parts of Missouri. So we'll say some passing cloud cover overnight, but everyone's quiet though as lows drop back to 75 degrees. We'll keep quiet again throughout the day, maybe some passing cloud cover, but just another repeat of today. 92 by lunchtime and pushing highs back near 96 across the entire region. And remember, that's just air temperatures. You factor the dew points, that'll be right up there once again. It's going to feel like 100 to about 108, 109 degrees. And these numbers will repeat themselves for Saturday, just before the front itself will finally sweep on through. That will happen as this upper ridge finally starts to slide off toward the west. So then as the front passes through, we'll watch for thunderstorm chances Saturday night through Sunday morning. I don't think they'll be severe, but something that we'll still watch, but definitely on the backside of the front. Look at us back on the cooler side of the jet and that brunt of the summer heat and humidity well to the west of us. And you'll love the numbers as a result of that in the 7-day forecast. 96 tomorrow, 95 Saturday with the humidity still high. Both of those days will be alert days. But on the backside of the cold front, Jordan highs back in the mid-80s for much of next week and lows back in the 60s.
Yeah, again, just a smidge bit of relief right now in a way when that sun goes down.
Yeah, better relief though by Sunday, thankfully.
Nick Kelly, thank you. A Nixup, Missouri native is on a mission to go on 100 hikes across America, all in the name of raising awareness about different issues. Bowman Carter is 11 hikes down, finishing number 11 today in Joplin. Hot day for that, too. He walked the 6.7-mile path of the Joplin tornado that took 161 lives back in 2011. Carter says this hike and the next 9 will represent a message of hope coming out of a negative situation. TND Donkey Rescue in Liberal, Missouri today hosted Family Autism Day. The rescue wanted people with autism and their families to have some fun and meet the donkeys and horses.
We just had a pretty good group. After being home for so long with COVID, it's really nice for them to get out and be able to do an activity like this and meet with other kids their age. And we also have some teenagers and a couple of adults, and it's just a really super good activity.
Some of the other activities at the rescue included face painting and sprinkler running. Both my kids enjoy those. Coming up in sports, Pittsburgh Little League baseball team is going to represent the state of Kansas next week in Indianapolis. Going to have the details. Also, Oklahoma and Texas take the next step in moving to the SEC. Jacob Leonard has that and more next.
The Pittsburgh Little League baseball team is still alive in the postseason. Pittsburgh won a state championship last week and will now represent Kansas in the Midwest Regional Tournament next week. Danny Terzer catches up with the team as they prepare to hit the road to Indianapolis.
Pittsburgh continues its hunt towards the Little League World Series title.
You grow up watching the Little League World Series and stuff, so just that opportunity to make it there is very exciting. So the guys are really excited and just want to go there and play some good baseball.
Pittsburgh won the state tournament without dropping a single game. Now they advance to the Midwest Regional Tournament in Indianapolis.
It felt good being a good team, Baxter, and just getting to know you get to go to Indianapolis and playing against like good teams.
They are ready for the challenge.
Is that fast? Is that the fastest you've ever seen?
We'll have to hitting to score runs, and then our pitchers throw strikes. But I think we have a really good group of kids here that can do all those things. So it's just showing up and making sure they play.
We're definitely confident. We're just ready to have fun and go play in Indy.
Come on, let's get ready to play here. Get ready to play here.
Pittsburgh Little League has a history of success. Most recently, they sent teams to regionals in both 2018 and 2019.
I gotta watch my brother do the same thing. I just want to follow in his footsteps.
Now, they get the chance to not just represent their hometown, but their home state.
Take a shot at it.
It's an amazing experience, just getting to represent Kansas, best team, Little League in Kansas. It's fun.
I think that's the neatest part. This is just a really supportive and nice community. So getting to represent Pittsburgh, the boys really have enjoyed that.
In Pittsburgh, Danny Terzer, KOAM Sports.
Pittsburgh's first game of the tournament will be on August 7th against Minnesota. Now, tonight is the second night of the Kansas American Legion State Baseball Tournament in Pittsburgh. Tournament host Post 64 won their opener last night 12-0 over Hayes. Tonight they're taking on the Ottawa Arrows. That one is in the top of the fourth. Post 64 trails 5-3. Trevor Amershek has a 3-run homer for Pittsburgh. The Kansas City Royals have been on a roll since the All-Star break. The Royals have won 8 of their last 11 games, including a walk-off win over the White Sox in Game 3 of their series. Now, today is the fourth and final game between the Sox and Royals. Salvador Perez, first inning, 2-run shot, his 25th. Kansas City takes a 2-0 lead. The same score in the second. Michael Taylor, the guy had the walk-off single last night. This time, leaves the yard, gets the lead to 3-0 for the home team. On the mound, Carlos Hernandez in control all day, gets Billy Hamilton with the curve. Then another punch out there. Next inning, Andrew Vaughn goes down swinging. 6 scoreless innings tonight for Hernandez. Royals win in a shutout 5-0. The SEC presidents voted on Thursday to officially invite Oklahoma and Texas into the conference. And the vote was unanimous, with all 14 presidents voting to bring the two teams in and create a 16-team league. Now, the change will go into effect on July 1st, 2025. The OU and Texas Board of Regents will meet tomorrow to officially accept that invitation. Today is day 2 of Chiefs training camp in St. Joe. Now, running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire is entering his second year with the team after being picked in the first round of the draft in 2020. Now, he racked up 1,100 scrimmage yards in just 13 games as a rookie. Edwards-Helaire talked today about the changes from year 1 to year 2 and actually getting to be around the team in the offseason.
Everything was just kind of sped up at the beginning of the season. So during the season, it was the time kind of to get comfortable, and then it was mask and kind of staying away from each other. So trying to even bond, outside, it really wasn't happening. The only time that we were able to be around each other was on the field. So, it started to show towards the end of the season, but this offseason was big for me.
And that's a look at sports. We're back with more news after this.
All NFL teams have started training camp, with vaccination rates, of course, a hot topic league-wide. And for those who choose not to get vaccinated, that decision could cost them their jobs. Fox's Matt Politano explains.
The Minnesota Vikings were originally set to cut ties with offensive line coach Rick Dennison after he chose not to get the COVID-19 vaccine. Instead, Dennison now reassigned to a position that will allow him to work remotely. The NFL requiring all coaches and Tier 1 staff, such as front office executives and equipment managers, to be vaccinated. The only other known case of a coach declining the vaccine so far was New England Patriots assistant offensive line coach Cole Popovich, who's no longer with the team because of his decision. This vaccine mandate has not been extended to players, but the NFL is looking to give a nudge to those who are still undecided, announcing that a team could be forced to forfeit a game for a COVID outbreak that stems from an unvaccinated player. That news was met with mixed reaction action. Arizona Cardinals receiver DeAndre Hopkins writing in a since-deleted tweet, quote, "Never thought I would say this, but being put in a position to hurt my team because I don't want to partake in the vaccine is making me question my future in the NFL." Buffalo Bills wide receiver Emmanuel Sanders, meanwhile, posted a picture of his vaccine card on Instagram with the caption, "Accountability, availability, don't have time to deal with no BS during the season." The NFL reporting 9 teams have at least 90% of their players partially vaccinated, with the regular season just over a month away. In New York, Matt Napolitano, Fox News.
Next, going to talk with some singers about hitting the road again, reuniting with fans. Florida Georgia Line's Brian Kelly, Nick Lachey of 98 Degrees, and country singer Shania Twain are ready to do what they know best, perform live. We caught up with the music artists to talk about reconnecting with fans, also some new music. Fox's Ash Dvorkin has the story.
Concerts are making a comeback, and artists can't wait to be back on stage performing live after over a year away from their fans.
We love touring. We love doing what we feel like we're called to do, throw big parties and entertain people and live out these songs together.
You do it so long and it becomes a part of you, and to not be able to do it just feels really, really, really bizarre. So we're all very excited to be back on the road here shortly.
Some bring with them new music they made during the pandemic, like Fox's The Masked Singer winner and 98 Degrees singer Nick Lachey.
We're also doing an album of remixes of our old classic hits. So all this will culminate in a new EP that's going to come out later this fall of all new music. So we're just excited to first of all have new product to give to our fans, and we're super excited about the new music. Girl got this heart floating.
Brian Kelly of Florida Georgia Line released his first solo album and soon reunites with Tyler Hubbard to hit the road.
We played our first show back at Tailgates and Tall Boys Festival, and it was 13,000 people. Absolutely big old party, slammed to the walls, and that was a tease because we have to wait till I think September till our tour starts.
Let's go, girls. And country singer Shania Twain is ready to resume that residency in Las Vegas. Let's Go returns in December with additional dates in February 2022.
I didn't get enough of the show. It was so cut off short. I can't wait to get back and just carry on.
In Hollywood, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
That's our time for tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. Going to leave you with video of a new tiger cub at the Tulsa Zoo. Look at that little guy and mama giving him a bath right there. Hey, be safe. Do this all again tomorrow. See you then.